This conference will now be recorded.
And hopefully Robert will pop back on here. I didn't mean to kick everybody off. And I got to get my webcam set back up because I moved it to another computer. So let me pop this in. I know you guys really want to see me. Let's see. See if Robert's going to make it back here, I hope. Okay, let me get turned on here. So, hello guys.
Hey, Brian.
Good to see you, Ron. Of course, John and Mark and Patrick have been here a while. Joe, good to see you, and Ron. I guess Robert got mad at me because I kicked us out. GoToMeeting crashed on me, and I guess hopefully he'll come back. So anyway, I'm Brian, and I'm with Thunder Laser. I guess you guys already know that, so I'll just skip the rest of that stuff. So how's everybody doing? Mark, how have you been? I haven't heard from you in a while.
Oh, hanging in there. The weather's finally turned around a little bit. It's getting nice and cool around here. I'm getting nice, great big tomatoes, and life is good.
Nice.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So, John, you've been playing with your laser a little bit?
I'm wasting a lot of wood, but I'm finally getting the hang of it. I think the software is harder to learn. The software is harder to learn than the hardware. I mean, the laser is pretty mindless. It's doing the right thing with the software to send over to the laser. So that's what I've been playing with.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. So, Joe, how have you been?
I'm good, thanks. Thoroughly enjoying the laser.
Awesome. That's great. And I see Danielle. Hey, how are you?
Sorry, I was muted, but hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. So, how many of you are still just looking at a machine and haven't gotten one yet? Ron, yeah? Yep. I guess everybody else probably has one going on already. Hey, Robert, sorry, I didn't mean to kick you out. Not a problem. So,
Robert, you were doing too good a job, and he was getting nervous that you were going to take his place.
That's exactly it. So, does anybody have anything to share? Remarkable or not remarkable? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, this is kind of a round table, kind of a open forum, so we kind of chat however we like. Will, it's good to see you in there. Now, do you have a laser, or are you looking or waiting on one?
Who are you talking to?
So, I see Will down there. So Ron, what's going on with you, man?
I had a couple questions. Wanted to flip by. I'm still like maybe a couple months away from pulling the trigger because I'm still working on converting my garage over here into a shop. And one I guess question I wanted to maybe run by you and the group is if you could start from scratch, like I basically am with the garage, it's a clean slate. How would you choose to handle exhaust? Because what I'm thinking is I'll install a vent in the roof of the garage and then run an exhaust pipe up into the attic space to vent directly out of the roof. But I guess my only concern there is if the ventilation is really good, which ideally is the case, in the winter months, I don't want it sucking all the heat out of my garage. And if in the summer months, I don't want it sucking all the AC out of the garage.
Right.
So I'm wondering,
The-
is there like a dedicated like intake port on the laser, or does it just use like the
It's 5.7 something inches. It's actually, you can use 6-inch ductwork here in the U.S.
or
So you
the
can get a 6-inch dryer vent, one of those hood vents. It needs to be dampened probably, or have louvers on it,
yep.
and just go right out like you would plumb out a dryer, except it's just 6-inch. You can get them at Lowe's. They're like $30.
Yep,
I've got an
yep.
article on that.
So I'm good on the I think I like know what I would do on the exhaust part of it, but I guess my question is more along the intake part of it. Like, where does the fresh air enter the laser? Like, is there a dedicated 6-inch port on the?
Right. No, well, the air comes from louvers on the front, and then it gets in from a little bit of everywhere. But
Okay.
there's some louvers on the front on the bypass door, and they have a baffle behind them so that it helps direct the airflow because it's a downdraft exhaust.
Okay.
And so then, and that's plenty. But you're right. If I close my garage and I've got the door closed and I go to open it, it'll slap me in the face. It'll pull that much air as I'm opening. So
Okay.
it's good you need to have the same amount of air coming as you do going out, or of course just be
Because-
stuck in a vacuum.
Because my thought was if there was a dedicated intake
Right.
port for the air on the garage, or sorry, on the laser, then maybe I could suck that air from the attic space, so it's not like conditioned air going into the laser. It's just like the cold or warm air that's up in the attic space, pull it into the laser, and then shoot it back out the roof.
There are people that do that. There's a modification for one of the lasers out there where they cut a hole in the top where the glass is and actually put a 6-inch fitting and run another exhaust or another, ductwork outside
Sure.
or out or whatever, so that they can pull
Okay.
the air from other than the pulling all the air out of your room. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no fixture or connection on the laser to facilitate that. That would have to be a modification of some sort.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, because that's like I'd watched the reason that came to mind is I remember watching a video, some guy who done like dust collection for his workshop. A couple years ago, I watched this video and he was saying that that's a big problem. Like he'll have his garage or his space like took a long time to get heated in the winter, and then turning his dust collection on that vented to the outside, this like all the heat in the room was gone within like 30 seconds. And it's like,
Right.
I don't want to be doing that to myself, like, because we're in Minnesota and it can get pretty cold here.
Right.
So I might have to like think through a solution like that to like take that air from the outside or from like the attic space that's not like super warm air or anything.
The other option will be getting a fume extractor and just exhausting
Sure.
right back into space.
To the same
But
room,
I don't
yeah.
know if I totally trust that. They say they work. I would only use them if I needed to, I think. I don't know if that would be a first solution.
A lot
or not.
of Glowforge people do that, don't they? Like, because
Yeah.
it's kind of targeted towards the craft market. So like people are
Right.
putting them in their craft room and might not have like an area to
Yeah.
to
Or if
exhaust
you're in a
it.
kiosk in a mall or something like
Sure.
that and you can't
Yeah.
get out. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Robert, what's going on with you, man?
Not much, bud. I'm just hanging in there, cranking out work. It's been good.
I see it. I
Yep.
see it. So, well, anybody feel free to jump in. Joe, Danielle, Will, if anybody, John, if y'all have any questions, fire
I
away.
noticed, I've been following one of the topics on the forum. A lady by the name of Laura posted something about a cracked lens recently.
You're right.
And I thought that was a pretty interesting topic. And I was kind of offering some suggestions like, was her air on? Did she over tighten it and things like that? But it seems like this was one of these issues that cropped up kind of out of left field. And she's trying to figure out what happened. And I would be interested to know what the resolution to that was too.
Mhm. Well,
I was thinking perhaps, this is one of these situations where maybe she was engraving something or trying to cut something that was highly reflective and something, there was some flashback or something else that wasn't explored on that topic.
Yeah, and that's a definite possibility. You know, it actually sounded, because she even inflected that, this started happening when she started getting Amazon lenses, even though they're 2.6 lenses.
Yeah.
Because there are fake 2.6 lenses out there too, so they may be marketing junk. It may be Pepsi bottles melted together.
Yeah.
I don't know that. But it sounded like the timeline kind of fit. She even said that it seemed like when they started getting their mirror, after the factory optic had failed, then that's when they started going through them a lot faster. So it could simply be the lens. Of course, the easiest way to test that is to put a good 2.6 or a Steve American Photonics lens in there or something, or an OEM lens, and kind of see if it goes away, But yeah, that is something that definitely happens, and it can foul the optics on that flashback. So
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, one of the things that I was watching a video from the American Photonics website, and something I didn't realize, and it's good to know, is if you use, alcohol right now is hard to get for obvious reasons. And what they were saying on that video is that if you use anything less than 99%, what happens is that those lenses will absorb the water that's in that. Like if you go with a 55% alcohol, the rest of it's water, and it goes into your lens. And then when you go ahead and fire it up, it will create some problems for the lens, because you're boiling water inside that lens, and it'll make it crack. So make sure you're using as pure alcohol as you can, because that apparently can be a problem for your lenses.
yeah, and there's some truth to that, because that deformation that you see, that delamination that you see so much, that's accompanied with the black dot too, but it looks like it pops a whole round section, a spherical section out of the lens. That reminds me a whole lot of spalling because of just that.
Yeah.
So
well, and I'll share a short story for the group, just so they can learn from it, if nothing else. I've got external air plugged into my Nova 24, and I've got a valve right there above the laser, and I had engraved a bunch of work and forgot to turn the air on, and it didn't take but about 15 or 20 minutes worth of engraving to completely smoke that lens. And
yeah.
So if you don't have your air on at all, you're going to have a problem with your lens. There's no doubt about that. And that was the original one that came with the unit.
Right. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I find it hard to believe that a lens can absorb water, though, Robert. I mean, it just doesn't seem, like glass absorbing water.
Well, Mark, the way he described it too, if you go on there, matter of fact, he's got several good videos. That lens is a lot more porous than you think it is.
Yeah, it's a crystal. Yeah, it's a synthetic crystal. It's synthetic, maybe it didn't, but it's a crystal.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, when you're engraving glass, you're actually just boiling the water molecules and creating steam, and causing those micro fractures, beneath the surface. It's not actually ablating the glass. And so, but that's a little different. That's in the makeup of the glass, is where we're saying we're introducing moisture to it and it's absorbing. But I think zinc selenium does absorb water. And if you think about it, I get the deal with the alcohol, but the only reason they don't sell 100% alcohol is because it's a polar solvent, and it collects moisture as well, not very readily, but it does. So yeah, so there's a bunch of weird stuff that comes into play.
Yeah, you can get 50% alcohol pretty readily now, but the 99% stuff is still pretty tough to get, depending on where you are in the country. So just something to keep. I'm wondering if like acetone or something like that would be a better way to go.
I don't know.
I have used acetone on lenses as well when I ran into a stubborn something that wasn't coming off readily with alcohol, and it works real good.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chris did that video like last week with the guy from American Photonics, Steve.
Yes.
In his garage, and he talked about those the sets that he sells, those like 1.5, 2 inch, I think 4 inch, are those interchangeable with the Thunder laser? I mean,
well, not exactly. He does manufacture one that fits our head.
yeah,
But if you use autofocus, it throws that all to heck because his focal distances, his design is completely off. So it would be a manual focus situation.
yeah.
I do have some things coming from American Photonics, and I'm going to start doing some tests. I'm going to start with looking at just some performance optics, just replacement optics, without the glue ends and without the quick release. But those are quick change heads. Once you insert that one barrel, you just swap the head modules, you know, the nozzles out that have the glued lenses in them, if I'm not mistaken. And so that you can swap them out pretty readily. But we're not quite ready to go all the way down that road yet, but we are definitely going to look at some performance optics to replace the stuff if people want replacements.
What are you talking about? Glued in lenses? I'm not familiar
so
with that.
have you seen the video where you can, well, I think I put it up on that thread where that Aztec thing was going, where you can bend that zinc selenium. It's flexible. You can distort it and deform it, you know, with strain and pressure and force. And you can actually see it. It's visible. The lens characteristics change, and you can cause it, you know, stress fractures and all kinds of stuff. So he doesn't secure his lenses in a traditional mount. They're glued in, and a number of other companies do that. Epilog does that. ULS, I think, glues their lenses in into a little frame, you know, into the mount instead of screwing it down and using compression to hold it in place.
Oh, okay, but you can still take it out to clean it.
No, he's got it designed where you clean it when it's in the mount.
Oh, okay.
The mount's removable, yeah. You can take it out of the laser to clean it, but you can't get the lens out, you know, where you can just rub it between your fingers or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So, and like I said, that's all in the infantile stages. I don't know where that's going to go, but we're exploring it, you know, because we want to explore any avenue we can to make things better or add some performance or value. So.
Yeah. Okay. I had a little issue this week or last week. I was trying I have the same regulator setup you have on the front of the machine with the dryer. And I was, for some reason, I never played with the needle valves, never touched them, you know, from the factory the way that they came. And I was running it, and I was, again, trying to understand Lightburn still with the air assist. And when I was using air assist, it's like it was like opposite. Like it was almost like running on low instead of running on high. Like if you put your hand underneath the nozzle. I was in there last week on Friday, and I was adjusting my needle valves to get it right with the regulator, and I tripped a breaker on the machine because I'm using external air. So I'm trying to. It hasn't happened since then, and I haven't really cut anything. I have a couple projects I need to cut, see how it goes, but I may use that the cord that comes with the aquarium pump to throw like a contactor and plug it. I may take my external air is plugged into my machine right now. You know, it's fed off. Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
That's not set up to do that. You just plug it in the wall and let it run normally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is backwards. So yeah, first, that air assist is not set from the factory. So yeah, you're right. You need to dial it in and get your stages right. The thing you're seeing about the sequencing, that inversion, that's a real thing. And it happens primarily with USB communication. Usually when you connect Ethernet, it goes away. It's not really that there's anything wrong. It's that we have a special firmware in our controllers, and Lightburn acts a little bit differently with a few things than it does with a vanilla Rowena controller because we got custom firmware. And there's a knowledge base article on how to fix that. There's a couple of different ways to do it. In our support site, it's the sequence. You can go in our site on our support site and just search for what did I call it? Sequencing issue or sequencing, and that article will pop up.
Well, you told me about that because I had that issue as well, and you just said to me to send the file to the laser rather than printing it direct from Lightburn, and that fixed it, no problem. I've not been a trouble since.
Yeah, and that's in the document as well. And I don't know how well you guys can see this. I'll try to get it as big as I can. Can you see that article?
When air assist is on, that's high. When air assist is off, that's low.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's a little video about it. And then here's the solutions. And this number 3 is the best solution. Use send or shift send to initiate the file transfer. And what that does is when you hit start on Lightburn, it sends the job to the laser in packets or, in pieces. So it streams it.
Yeah.
So there, there's a chance for COM errors and things like that. But when you actually send it to the laser using the send button or using shift send to automate it, it actually sends the entire file to the controller's memory. And so it's on board the controller, and then it starts the job. So you're sure that you have the entire file so that it won't be corrupt, due to a communication
I
error.
send mine. Yeah, because my machine's in my shop. So I send it, then I usually go back there, line everything up, frame it up, make sure it's right, and then start the job, from the controller.
Right. And then as you get a little more comfortable with that, you can use shift send, and it'll start the laser just like it does when you hit start, but it's still the same thing. So it still fills up your memory. You'll still have to clear out your file list every once in a while and that kind of thing. But yeah, that document is on our site, and it tells the different ways you can overcome that sequencing issue with the dual air assist.
Yeah.
So were you saying that like streaming is done via USB, but like the send and shift send is over Ethernet? Is that what you were saying?
Well, no, you can send through USB also.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
have to be connected Ethernet for that. So the function of the buttons inside the software and the way the software is handled is different.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to do a workaround last week before we did the webinar with Jason Dory, to set my camera up as an IP camera so I can put it on the network so I can see it. And then when he kind of started talking about the being in the room, which I am,
Right.
made me like, you know what? I think I'm going to get that. We spent a lot of money on that camera. I think I'm just going to get a laptop and put it back there at the machine. That way, when I'm ready to send it to the machine, I can actually go back there and do calibrations, whatever I need to do on the laptop, not from my desk.
Yeah.
But I sit here all day and work on my computer, but when I'm running jobs, I'm back there. So,
Right.
But, I was trying to add that computer to the network that way, the Lightburn camera.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. And then you could use Dropbox or something like they were talking about, to share between the computers, and have them both, that would be a good way, because you get two licenses with Lightburn, and 3 if you email them and ask nicely.
I was gonna ask, I do work from home too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
So John, how are you liking your machine? You finally came, huh?
Yeah. The machine runs great. It does exactly what everybody says it's supposed to do. And, it just, my neighbors think I'm cooking all the time. I think I'm barbecuing.
You need a couple more acrylic.
They're gonna start knocking on the door saying, "What are you serving tonight?"
Right.
But it's a great machine. It's just a little bit of a learning curve, and once you get past that, and there's lots and lots of questions, and you try to read and go through it. I don't think I'm going to get shop air. First of all, I'm not that mechanically inclined to start drilling holes and stuff. I don't even know if I have a drill. So I'm not going to be doing it. In fact, I want to ask you a question. Is there any way to hook the Lightburn camera up without drilling a hole in the machine?
Yes. There's a couple of different ways. The way we're doing it with our Thunder cams now is using the UDisc port and an adapter and a special cable. And all we're doing at the end of the day is using the wiring that's already in there, so you don't have to drill the hole. It really doesn't have any function with the laser, other than the fact that it just happens to be mounted to the lid. So there's different ways to adapt that. There's different USB connectors. Those connections on the outside of the machine are technically just extension cables. The other gender of whatever that cable is that's sticking out of the side of the machine is on the other end of that wire, and that plugs into the DSP controller. So they're just extenders. So you don't have to open your box to plug up to the Ruida. So you can use one of those as a way to get that USB, out without having to drill a hole. To be real honest with you, I took the UDisc port out of mine. There's 2 screws, and I let the port fall out, let the jack fall out right there under the main power switches, and just pushed my USB cable through that and ran it out that hole. without having to drill another one, because I never used the U-disc.
Right.
You can use adapters to hook it to the cabling that's already in there. It depends on which cable you want to use and what you can find locally, or whether you're going to get it on Amazon or something. Because your USB gender changers and adapters and things like that, when you get into a little bit of weird stuff, your big box stores may not have some of it.
Right.
But
I watched Robert's video when he hooked up his his camera, and he's talking about grommets and stuff. Robert, you lost me with grommets and holes. And I don't know what all that stuff is. So, I just figured I wouldn't do it because I just didn't want to go that far.
Yeah. And I can work something up, some solutions for that, some alternatives and parts lists and things like that. I can make an article about that. I could work on that this evening or something, or first thing tomorrow, or in the next day or so, and get that up. That way everybody can have it to refer to as well.
Yeah, and it was pretty easy for me. I got I'm sorry, this is Danny, but I got a cam like directly from Lightburn because I wanted the 8mm one or whatever. So I just went on Amazon and they had like a 2-pack like adapter that I could just get. I think it might have been $10 for 2. And I just, did exactly what you said, like plug the one side in, and it was, that easy. So
right.
It was very easy. And I also drill the holes and stuff. So don't be like I drill the holes for my for the outside air. So don't be, intimidated by that. Because if I can do it, you can do it.
I guess, because that was a question I had about air. I mean, those aquarium pumps, they sell bigger ones of those. I would assume
I think you can get them a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Would that make any sense, or?
If you're seeing a problem that you think is because you don't have enough air, then you might want to address it. But if you're not trying to cut 1/2-inch ply every day, I don't know that it would necessarily be something that you should explore too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I forget exactly what kind of volume those put out. I've got an article on the pumps as well. And it's more about flow than pressure on that particular setup. But if you're just going to be engraving and cutting 1/4-inch and 3/8 stuff, you probably don't even need it. I just got that Cali Air a couple of weeks ago, just because I wanted to try it and see what it did, not necessarily because I needed it, for performance issues. But it is pretty cool. So, but yeah, you can explore a larger aquarium pump. I'm not sure how much bigger they get than that, but I think there may be another size or two up. From what it is.
I was looking someplace. I thought they had like 3 or 4 sizes up.
They may. They well may. Yeah. So
and it's not a huge investment. It was like $80, $90 for the biggest one they had, and I didn't know if that would make a difference. And that'd be kind of simple to hook up. Just boom, it's done.
Right. Yeah. You'll still need an adapter to go from that pump, because it'll probably have a standard 3-prong 110 15-amp plug on it. And it'll have to plug into that IEC standard on the back, and you can get those things on Amazon for like $7.
Okay.
So that it'll interface with the laser, so the laser can control it.
Right.
But I can help you out with that too. If you want to give me a shout, we'll get you a shopping list together.
There you go. But I'll tell you, with the new chiller, the way it plugs in and everything now just plugs into the back of the laser, and there's one plug into the wall, it's much, much easier.
Yeah, I haven't seen them up close yet, but from what I understand, the chiller is actually wired on the laser switch, the laser power switch.
Yeah, as soon as you turn it on, the chiller goes on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
it's really a good setup. You don't have to touch the chiller. You don't have to hit it. Everything just goes on whenever it needs it. It's really a much better setup, I think.
Yeah. Cool.
And it has like a clip lock. You push it in and turn it and twist it so the plug can't accidentally come out.
Right.
It's a good system.
Cool. I'm glad. Does anybody else have any questions about anything or comments?
Yeah, Brian, I had
go ahead. No, go ahead, Robert.
Just a question, Brian. I noticed that there was quite a few new users that were using the cut cards, where you had the speed and the power percentage across the top. And it looked like that file wasn't working right. There was no, it didn't have a gradual increase.
It wasn't, and I fixed it and I republished it. a couple of days
Okay.
ago, I think.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I did-
screwed up. The values went back to 100 on some of the min powers on some of those power scales.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
that
it
makes
didn't-
sense.
Yeah, they didn't stick for some reason. And I took a picture of it with gradation enabled, you know, to highlight, you know, to graduate the and it looked right. You could see the
Okay.
gradation in it. So I think I fixed it. I
Okay.
hope.
I think we were talking, Robert, like there was a post last week about that file, and again, being new to Lightburn, like I didn't understand the scaled power settings and how that worked, and that file
Lily,
was set up. No, it's really cool. Like when you figure it out, like when you understand the way that you can set that up for doing like the settings, you know what I mean? Like that, if you're looking at it, you're really confused, and you're going, well, if I'm running 200 millimeters a second at 12%, like how does it know? Because they're all the same color, you know. I mean, but it's like columns and rows, the way that you highlight it and set it for a minimum and a maximum, and then you set the step, you know, whether it's 12%, 10%, and it was pretty sweet. I mean, like, well, you can just pop it in there and then, you know, just run it through. I mean, even to change it, like to do even finer settings, like if you don't want to run it 10, 20, 30, 40, you want to go at 12, you know, 16, 18, just to kind of see how it impacts it. It was pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in Lightburn. I mean, like you really have to like follow, like Jason posted that link to when we were having that meeting about the cool tips and tricks, and it was like all the documentation. There's a lot of stuff on there like you would never even know. I mean, I was playing today with the tabs function. That's a pretty cool function, like if you do that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's so much stuff that's in there that if you don't pay attention to, you'll skip right over. Yeah, definitely cool software.
Yeah, I'm playing with some painted tiles with 3 different colors, and I'm using kind of the same process to get the settings so you can kind of burn through to each particular color, and then you'll be able to have kind of multicolored type engravings. And that process is invaluable for something like that.
Yeah. I was watching that video yesterday. The guy posted about the color settings, and I was like, when I saw the video, I was like, why would you do that? And then I watched the video and I was like, okay. But I wasn't thinking like multiple colors. He was just doing like 2 color, black and red, black and green, black and blue. But the power shading, that function, how it shows like a different color, like it was like between pink and red, you know, just based upon that power setting was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was revealing. I haven't seen the video you're talking about, but it's multiple layers of paint, and you're saying the power like etched down through the different layers.
Yeah. And then the way that the laser etched it at 10% to 20, all the way up to say 70 or 80%, determined how much color it showed. And, you know, you basically started at like a pink and then you got to a red. So if you were doing artwork and you wanted to set it up, you know, at certain scales, you can do that and then just reveal it. It was pretty neat. It was like a 25-minute video.
Could you share the link in the chat? I'm curious about
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Where was that?
Mark, you were going to say something earlier too. Did you have something I forgot?
What was that?
I thought Mark. Thing too.
Yeah, I was gonna let you know that I put a post up there a short time ago about a baffle that I made for keeping the little parts from going down the side of the machine underneath that. So I made this little Z fold thing, and that thing's working like a champ. I'd say about 98% of the junk that normally would go down there is getting redirected back onto the tray.
And okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's a neat thing. So I don't use my laser enough to gather a whole bunch of scraps. I do a lot of engraving, but I don't cut out a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I'm making some parts now that have a whole bunch of little tiny cutoffs that are getting flung around, especially with the air assist.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's keeping the debris from underneath that bottom tray.
Yeah, you don't want that stuff floating around in your gears and belts and stuff. You snag one of those in there, it might cause a little trouble.
Well, and with 20, 30, 40 pounds of air, it flings them all over.
Oh yeah. So, all right. Anybody else got anything? I see Adam. Which Adam is that? He may not be able to hear me. So, um, so I'm trying to think if I have anything new. I mean, I'm putting out some new knowledge-based articles, more tech-based stuff like repair. Like I noticed there wasn't one for replacing the power supply, the laser power supply. But I mean, it's 4 screws and 3 connectors, so it's really not that bad. But I found that when doing it, those screws, even with a real good magnetized screwdriver, they don't stick real well, and I drop them down into the guts of the machine. So I made a little article that kind of highlighted my escapades with taking out a power supply. So maybe it'll be a step by step, and nobody will be dropping things like I did. So I'm just doing.
Another thing that you were going to explore was plugging in the rotary. Do you really need to enable the rotary on the software?
Yeah, it seems like that. It seems like that you don't.
It seems that way for me too.
Yeah. Since we use the U channel, that'll come into play for lasers that use the Y channel for the rotary, and it throws them all kinds of crazy, Because, but since we use a different channel, that's really not really a thing in there, and so.
Brian, I'm wondering, I know we've seen quite a few lately where most people, because they want to keep the cord closest to the connection, they put the rotary in backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe something needs to be included with that rotary to indicate which direction it needs to go into the machine.
Yeah, I've got a document, but actually I salvaged. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. From JER Customs, so I've got to redo part of it.
Gotcha.
Or it'll still go in backwards, because that's what it shows on his original documentation.
Oh.
And that's normally that's why that happens. They'll pull up the OEM docs, and that's the way it's got them in those machines.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I've got that kind of on my list to do too. My list keeps getting longer, so I keep shuffling stuff around. So.
My rotary is supposed to be coming today, so I'm waiting for UPS to deliver it. But I do have one question. So, as far as the air, the inline fan, would the 6-inch one be fine, or should it be like the 8-inch one? Like, which one should be like the one? Like, if I have a Nova 35.
Okay, I've got a Nova 35, and I've got an S6 on mine, and for me it's plenty, but I don't generate a lot of smoke either. I don't cut stuff all day long every day, because I need to or have to or want to. It's just I get limited use on it, so I don't generate that much smoke. There is a little bit of a delay on that 6-inch. I noticed when it first kicks on, because they have to spool up. They're not like those centrifugal fans. Those suckers pop right into action. Sounds like a jet taking off too. But it takes a little bit to start evacuating the smoke, and then after that, it seems okay with me. But a lot of the people say the 8 is better. And looking at the specs, the 8 moves a little bit more air than the stock one does, and mine moves a little less actually. So by going quieter, I'll probably lost 100 cubic feet per minute, going with the 6. So it may be worth going with that S8.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if you've got a 6-inch line and you put an 8-inch fan in there, doesn't that cause problems going from smaller to larger and then back to smaller diameter?
Kind of, and if you can only reduce once, of course, that'll help. But the friction loss of that short of a distance, and if it's a rigid coupler, I don't think will be too detrimental.
It just seems to me like it's throwing money out the window if you need to, Yeah.
Well, that's assuming that the 6-inch line or that restriction would not allow maximum flow, and we don't really know that. You know what I mean? So it may handle that volume. It may handle that volume through 6-inch.
I think distance has a lot to do with it too. I mean, how far you're running. I said I think distance has a lot to do with it too. How far you're running. I mean, if you're just venting it out the wall, I mean, I think the 6 inches. I mean, I have a 51 and I have the 6-inch, and it moves a ton of air.
Okay, yeah.
It runs great. I mean, I think my total distance of my run is maybe 15 feet. Up the wall, over, and then through the wall. But but the 6-inch moves a lot of air. I see a lot of people doing the 8-inch, but I mean, the 6-inch, all like you said, the 6-inch hardware, the duct work, the flaps and everything, that's all stock stuff at like Home Depot. If you go 8-inch, I think you have to order all that stuff. I don't think you're gonna find that stuff on the shelf.
Yeah, I think you do. And if you get the stuff from Cloudline, I think you got to really hold your mouth right to get it on there from what I see. But yeah, I mean, the 6 works fine for me. I mean, you know, I had seen a couple people say that the 8 was better, which I guess it is, but you're right, Mark. I mean, you know, I haven't seen anything that, you know, that would make me want to switch back to my stock one for sure. I haven't had, you know, so, you know, would I buy a 6 again? I just like to get whatever's out there that people are using. So I'd probably get an 8 just to do it. But, you know, if it was just me wanting one for my laser, I'd probably still get a 6 because it's done me good. So
we were talking in the webinar like a week or two ago about the Makeup Air, you know, like, you know, you need to be able to pull in what you're pushing out.
Right.
And I haven't had any issues yet. And I engrave a lot of wood and cut wood. So I'm going to try it. I want to take the pass-through door and pull it out and see if that has any impact on it with moving more air through the machine. But visibly, it's pretty clear. I mean, it moves the air pretty well with the door on, you know, with the door on with the baffle. Yeah.
Yeah. And looking at those louvers and that baffle on the front of that door, it doesn't look like there's a lot of surface area open in those louvers either, you know. And then you got to think, you know, there's that screen down there too. That's restrictive, you know, that grate down in the bottom on the back of the laser. So that big stuff doesn't get sucked up through your fan, I get, you know, and go through the ductwork. So that's got probably a little bit restrictive too. So I'm not real sure about the actual specifications on, you know, or the aerodynamics inside of that machine, but it'd be neat to see some stuff like that. Maybe put a smoke bomb in there, you know, do some tests like they do in the wind tunnels.
Yeah. They make that. They make air. They make that smoke. Like we use it for testing fire alarm systems for testing duct detectors. It's just spray smoke. They spray it in there, and you can see it moving. You know. Yeah, it comes in a can.
That'd be pretty neat. That wouldn't set the flame detector off because it's heat. So yeah, you'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
So I've got a question. We've got a thunderstorm rolling through here at the moment, and I'm not using the laser right now, but were I to switch it on and then the power cut out, what would happen?
I have seen that you can recover in some instances from a job, you know, let's say if it was in the middle of a job and you had a power outage. I've seen that the Ruida is capable of recovering from that and picking up where it left off. I don't know the situations behind it. I watched a video on it. But if that happened, it's not really any different than hitting the e-stop. Basically, everything just comes to a halt and you just, you know, have to start over.
Okay. Is it safest just to switch it all off and then just start from normal?
Probably so. If that happens, if you trip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that happen not too long ago. I was doing a big about 17-inch monogram, and it got about halfway through. Power went out. I'm thinking, oh great, you know, we got to start over. But actually, when the power came on, the machine powered back up, and I just had to hit the pause start button.
Okay.
And it really took off. It was like I had hit the pause button and then the start button. It never missed a beat.
That's
cool.
what I've heard. I haven't experimented with it much, but that's when I was talking about watching that video, that's exactly what they described too. So
yeah. No, it didn't. And you know, it was right in a very noticeable part of the engraving that I would have noticed if we would have missed some lines. And I was a little freaked out by it, but when it was all done, you couldn't tell where it stopped and where it started. So,
well, that's good to know. Cool.
Yeah, I had the same thing, but mine was like the power just tripped off, like my breaker just tripped off, and then whenever I turned it back on, it had like some little message on it or whatever, and then it just said hit start, and it just started right back up.
yeah, it was
Cool.
Joe,
Hey, Adam,
where
how
are
you
you
doing,
that
man?
you've got a thunderstorm going?
Say again?
Where are you that you've got a thunderstorm going?
Oh, I'm just south of Austin in Texas.
Yeah. So can you hear us, Adam? Looks like you're muted.
Yeah, I can hear you.
How's it going?
Good.
So how's things with you?
Well, the shark turned out good, so I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised because I didn't know how that would go using that pro. Oh, we can't talk about that program, I guess. We're using Photograph. I processed an image for him. He needed in a hurry for glass. And
is that what you used, was the Photograph?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I didn't do any adjustments or anything. I just picked glass, set the resolution and the photo size, and let it do its thing. So it was all default.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good in comparison.
I thought it did too.
But yeah,
it seemed to do good.
When you're doing glass, Brian, do you put soap on it or wet newspaper or anything?
I don't. I've found that, I mean, I've tried, the newspaper and all that stuff. And I've seen videos. I think Trotec even did one where they compared with mask and without, and they showed that the results were pretty superior. But I've found that usually the problems that happen are that there's too much power and it causes the glass to spall because it cracks completely off and leaves smooth spots. And every time that's ever happened to me where that flakes off and it just doesn't look, frosted anymore, it's been because I use too much power. So I just keep dialing my power down until it looks good. Which I'll probably use on my 80-watt machine. I might use 20% or something like that.
I've noticed that too, like etching rock glosses, like the power's up too high, then like it can like flake off, or if you even like it looks fine, but then you wash it too aggressively with like a
hang the rag and
you can Brillo pad or something. Like it'll get it'll chip off smooth and not frosted.
And the dish soap I've tried, and that worked okay. I didn't like the masking because it seemed like some of the ash from the masking and the adhesives stayed. It looked like it could have dirtied it up a little, Yeah. And then I'll take fine steel wool and just buff over it once or twice, and then it's smooth as a baby's butt after that. If there's any little shards or anything, which there shouldn't be, or that's probably not a good thing. But
it's also kind of like expectation management with etching glass. I feel like it's never going to look as good as like sandblasted glass.
Like sandblasted, right? Because you're not ablating the material, so
you're doing microfractures on it.
But at the same time, being able to do a photo image in glass is, I don't know that would be possible with a sandblaster. That's more of a stencil.
Yeah, it would be some insane like masking or like duotone pattern or something.
Yeah, you'd have to do threshold. You just have to cut out a stencil of little tiny dots. That may be kind of hard to do.
Yeah. Be expensive.
Yeah, probably would be. But anyway, I don't really have anything else. Adam, you got any questions or anything?
No, not really. I was just kind of curious how you process that, and I usually watch the webinars after the fact, so I figured I had time. I'd jump into this one. And
Gotcha.
Yeah. Brian, I do have another question. If you happen to know, or maybe Mark or anybody else that's done it, I've got to do some anodized signs, like 12 by 24 signs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know JDS carries that stuff. Any other place you think I can look to maybe get some different colors other than black that are good for outdoor use?
I get some stuff from Sign Warehouse. Is where I get a lot of I think it's called Sign Warehouse, is where I get my license plates and stuff. I usually just do business cards and license plates.
Okay.
But they've got a huge selection of all kinds of anodized and coated metals and different substrates.
That's just signwarehouse.com?
Yeah, signwarehouse.com. That's usually my go-to for that kind of stuff. I don't get their vinyl cutting stuff just because US Cutter has a place in Memphis right next to the hub, and I can get my orders usually in 2 days tops from them because I'm so close. So, but yeah, Sign Warehouse is usually where I get my anodized stuff. I don't know how, see, and that's another thing about looking for vendors for stuff. I don't make a product, so I'm not looking for the most cost-effective, substrates that I can find. I'll get what I need, and that's just, it is what it is. So my view of a good vendor may be different than yours.
Well, just some options. I know JDS have them, but they're pretty limited in color. And
Yeah, Johnson Plastics Plus may have it. JPP, they may have some stuff like that as well.
Perfect, thank you.
So, right. I guess I could hang out a little bit more. I don't know how much more we can get in. If anybody's got any last minute things.
Can I ask
If
a
not, I
question
guess.
about the library?
Uh-huh.
Can you merge two libraries together? For instance, I have the library I downloaded from your website, and let's say Robert has a more extensive one. Is there any way to merge the two together on the machine, or do you have to pick one or the other?
You have to pick one or the other. Now you can load as many libraries as you want. You could even make your own libraries where you have a library for wood and a library for acrylic if you really want to get that deep into a hierarchy. But yeah, you can share those files back and forth, but you do have to load them each time. So there's not a quick way to select or merge them. It's an XML. They're XML files. So, you know, if there were such a wizard or generator online that you could do that with XML files, then, you know, I'm sure it would be possible. I wouldn't want to do it. I would just load the next one.
Put it on your list.
Be a lot of heavy lifting. So,
because I think that's the hardest part to learn anyway, is the settings, you know.
Yeah. And that's where you just have to become intimately familiar with the personality of your laser too, you know. You kind of get that feel after a while on a lot of things. But the libraries definitely help for the baselines and getting you close, hopefully.
Place to start. Sure.
That's one of the things I'm looking forward to most about having my own laser, because I've mentioned in the past that I currently use a laser at the makerspace I attend, and every person changes like settings for their particular project, and you like once you think you like have something tuned in the way you like it, someone goes and changes something, and trying to figure out like what they changed and getting back from there is like I'm excited to like be the only one using my machine, so that it's like
I totally get that.
Yeah.
So, well, cool guys. I guess if nobody has anything else, I'll call this one good and start uploading the video. And I'm going to start thinking about it. Does anybody have any topics or ideas for next week that they may want to talk about? If so, you can email me or send me a message if you think about it. So if you guys have any ideas, I always welcome any kind of input, good or bad. You can tell me how bad I am too. I don't mind. So I get used to that too. So anyway.
Great.
Well, cool.
All right, nice seeing everyone.
Yep. And glad everybody could join. And hopefully we'll see you next week with some new and improved stuff.